When MPs return to Ottawa on Monday, it will be to a very different House of Commons seating chart. The NDP is down to just 7 seats, and it's lost official party status. With it, all of those parliamentary resources that often go with party status. So what are they planning to bring to the House as a result? Well, joining us now is the interim leader of the NDP, Davies. Thanks for being here. Welcome back to Power Play.
Thank you, Mike.
So what is the status right now of those discussions that you have been having to try and gain party status in the House of Commons?
Well, the first thing to note is that we are in a minority parliament. You know, nobody has a majority, so that means that parties have to talk to one another in a way that they often don't in a majority. You know, we have 7 spirited members of the NDP caucus who want to bring the voices of millions of working people to Parliament. And, you know, we're going to do our job no matter what, but if we can get additional tools to do our job, we're going to advocate for that. And so that's what we're doing with other parties, is we're engaging in discussions with them to see what kind of extra resources we might be able to access in order to do our job better.
Do you think you're further ahead now than you were about a few weeks ago when you were starting this process, talking to the government and different parties to try and gain party status?
Yeah, we definitely are. We definitely are. And, you know, again, when you're in a minority and you have established relationships with other parties, there's an opportunity to work together in a way that I said in a majority just doesn't happen. So we're making good progress. Our relationships are good with both the Liberals and Conservatives, and we're opening up a channel to talk with the Bloc Québécois as well. And we're very optimistic that things will move forward.
To play devil's advocate, why do you deserve it when you consider that the people voted and they decided you get 7 seats? Why do you deserve official party status when the bar is 12?
Well, official party status is one thing, but having tools and resources to carry out our parliamentary functions is another, and those are 2 separate things. So,
are you working on 2 different fronts? In other words, you're not looking for party status, but you want those resources, and would you take one without the other?
Well, there's different ways to get it. I mean, I think the bottom line is that we want the tools that we can get to help us discharge our parliamentary functions as effectively as possible. You know, that's things like access to question period, access to committees, you know, things like where you sit in the House. Do you have space in West Block? Do we have access to the online voting dashboard? These are all tools and things that recognized parties get that when you're a caucus of 7, you don't automatically get, but will help us all function better. And it's in everybody's interest, I think, to function, I think, as effectively as possible in a minority situation.
I want to talk to you a little bit about your leadership, because you're named the interim leader, but that has been questioned by 3, basically half your caucus. If you sort of take you out of the caucus, half of them. So Jenny Kwan, Leah Gazan, and Laura Idlot. The Globe and Mail obtained a letter that they sent to the party saying that there was no consultation. They subsequently said they support you. Have you reached out to these 3 to try and mend fences here with the process? And do they really have, do you have their backing fully, do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, we had a tough election, Mike, there's no question about that. And it was very dislocating for all of us. And so I think what's happened is that we've had to deal with some issues that normally you don't have to deal with, but all parties do at different time. You know, we were without our leader who didn't win a seat. What I can tell you is we've had very positive meetings together. We had a caucus meeting yesterday, and I can tell you there's a very strong commitment in our caucus among all 7 caucus members to work together in a united way and bring the voices of those 1.2 million Canadians who voted for us, that we feel a very strong obligation to, all of us in our caucus. And that's to fight for things that we heard during the election. People need an affordable house. People need a good family-sustaining job. The price of groceries and utilities and everything else is too high for too many people. Businesses are worried about tariffs. So what unites us as a caucus is a very fervent desire to bring those voices to Parliament and to advocate for the policies that we know people need. And I'm confident that that's going to drive us forward in a very strong, coherent way.
Are you confident that your caucus will stick together? Weeks ago, you had said the Liberals are putting out feelers to your MPs, asking them whether or not they'd want to cross the floor. Can you guarantee that the 7 inside the NDP are going to stay as members of the NDP?
I'm 100% confident in our caucus, every member.
And that none of them will want to be tempted or even look to go elsewhere?
Look, Mike, we have 7 strong New Democrats. These are powerful, passionate, experienced parliamentarians that care deeply about their communities and the NDP. And so I'm just 100% confident in the commitment and in the skill set of our colleagues. I've said before, we don't have one leader in the NDP. We have 7 leaders in the NDP. And I think that we're going to be a very powerful caucus moving forward. And we're going to stick together, and we're going to, I think, surprise a lot of people.
Taking a step back here, the electorate did send a pretty strong message to the NDP that it was not the first, second, or even third choice for a number of people. What do you think are the changes that need to happen with the NDP going forward to recapture some of that vote and to really appeal to more people? I mean, some people look at this as, you know, a fork in the road for you to figure out what the NDP needs to do next.
Well, first, I'm not sure about the premise that people have left the NDP. I think a lot of people, a lot of New Democrats were very concerned about Donald Trump. I think they were worried about the chaos he was sowing in our country. And I think a lot of people parked their vote, lent their vote, might be a good expression to use, with the Liberals. There were still other New Democrats that didn't want a Liberal government again after 10 years of what they perceived to be a failure of government for them, and parked their vote with the Conservatives. So I don't think it's a rejection of all of those people who have voted New Democrat in the past, of our policies. I still think we have the best policies for working people in this country of any political party.
But they still didn't choose them. I mean,
exactly.
And I understand the Trump factor. At the same time, if they felt strongly enough about it, they still would have believed in an NDP party potentially forming government. And do you think that that's out of reach?
No, I don't think it's out of reach, but I do think there's a strong message to the NDP, Mike, that we have to reconnect with working people in this country. I think that's a fair question. Even though we believe we have the best policies for working people, somehow there's been a disconnect between communicating that for working people to feel it. So that's why one thing I want to do as interim leader, whether that's 6, 8, 10, or 12 months, is I want to travel this country. I want to go to the shop floor. I want to go to union halls. I want to meet gig workers, service workers, healthcare workers, public sector workers, and meet them where they're at, and listen to them. And I think my caucus colleagues want to do that as well. And I think once we start reconnecting with working people and understanding where that disconnect has occurred, I think that we're going to come back very strongly as the Labour Party of Canada.
I've only got about 30 seconds left, and I hope you can answer it in this amount of time. Where do you think the NDP actually needs to go, though, on the political spectrum? Closer to the center, more to the left? I mean, is this going to be more of a grassroots party? Where do you see it going, and what should the next leader look like?
I think we have to reconnect with working people, Mike. I mean, the vast majority of people in this country, you know, I'm guessing 75, 80%, are people who go to work every day and they trade their time for salaries and for wages, and we want to reconnect with them. So I don't know if that's left or center, but where we're centering our policies is with working people, and I think that's the path forward for us.
How long of a time do you think that path will take you forward? And I know you had said as interim leader, upwards of 12 months. But where do you see the NDP being able to rebuild into the next election, or do you think you're stuck here for a while? Oh
no, we could rebuild. Politics can move fast. You know, I mean, you look at where the Liberals were in December of last year. They were headed for electoral disaster, and they changed leaders, brought in Mr. Carney, and in 4 months from now, you know, our government again. That's how fast politics can change in this country. And so I'm very optimistic that when the NDP reimagines, we reconnect, we rebuild, we reimagine the progressive option for the NDP, I think we can move very quickly to regain the trust of working people, and we'll be right back in contention.
Okay, got to leave it there. Don Davies, the interim leader of the NDP. Thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.